Once more, we call header strings to see the name of the next column. This time, that's verification status. So we proceed with our usual approach, where we display the contents of the column array before checking what its unique values are. We see that there are 4 of them: empty space, not verified, source verified, and verified. Since we tend to be skeptical when information is missing, we'll assume that an empty space is equivalent to not verified. Contrary to that, source verified refers to loan applications which include investor backing. In those cases, if the investor's funds are verified, then the status is listed as source verified. Therefore, it's clear that verified and source verified are both good, so we can combine them as well. Just like with loan status, we'll set the bad options to 0 and the good ones to 1. This way, we can substitute everything with a single np-where function. Let's set the loan status column equal to the where function and set the condition to be that the value is either an empty space or not verified. Then we assign 0 if the condition is met and 1 otherwise. In a new cell, we call the unique function to verify we've successfully filled the column with 0s and 1s. All right. Since the output from header strings is still on screen, we can see that the next column is URL. If we display its contents, we'll see a URL address which is mostly identical for each row, apart from the loan ID numbers at the end. Let's see what happens if we remove the repeating parts using the strip function. We get an array of numbers stored as strings, which is quite interesting. It seems like we're not losing any crucial data here, so let's overwrite this column. If we go back to the output of 2 cells ago and look at the text we removed from the URL, we'll see loan ID equals right before the numbers. Do you recall that before we split the dataset into numbers and strings, there was a column called ID? If we call header full, we'll see that the first column of the original dataset contained such values. Therefore, the first column of the numeric dataset must also contain them. It's time to see if that's the case. For an easier comparison, in the next cell, let's also display the current version of the URL column. From the values we see on screen, the two are identical with the exception that the values in loan data strings are in quotation marks, while the ones in loan data numeric are displayed as decimals. That said, let's see what happens if we use assign type to cast both the current URLs and the IDs into integers. From the values we see on screen, the two new arrays look absolutely identical. However, looks can be deceiving, so let's use the array equal function and plug in the string array with assign type and the numeric array as inputs. The function returns true, which confirms our suspicion that the two are identical. That means the URL column doesn't hold any additional information we can't already extract from the ID column. So getting rid of the URLs seems like a good decision. Just like we did with grade, we'll use the delete function to remove values from the dataset. Besides, we'll also drop the URL from the header. All right. To make sure we've successfully removed the URLs from the dataset, we can call the variable loan data strings and display the column with index 5. We see an array of capitalized 2-letter words, which are distinctly different from the URLs we had before. Of course, we'll also display the header strings variable and confirm that the 6th column is no longer URL. Instead, it's now address state, but more on that in just a bit. Before we move on, we should quickly check the ID values to confirm we didn't just delete irretrievable information. To do that, we call loan data numeric and display the column with index 0. We see the exact same output from earlier in the video, so the IDs remain intact. We should also display header numeric to verify we're looking at the correct column. ID is in the first position, so everything is as we expect it to be. Fantastic! Let's wrap it up here, and I'll see you in the next lecture.